Hello everyone, welcome to another video of our ASP.NET Core playlist. In our last video, we have seen the project structure of the ASP.NET Core. In this video, we are going to run our first ASP.NET Core application. We have seen what controllers are, what models does, what views is, and the app settings.json, the root file, the CSS and all. So we'll run our first project in this video. You can see that our project is already building and it is now successfully hosted on the localhost 5297. So if we hit this URL, we can see the application running. Now you might be wondering where all this came from. So we'll go and quickly check how the internal structures that we have seen before is working to build this web page. So notice the route here. We don't have anything like this, just the localhost 5297. So whenever we hit this URL, the page is basically coming from this map controller route. So controller is home and the action is index. So where is home? We'll go and find it. Here you can see the home controller and our action was index, right? So we'll go to the views and we'll find that there is a index.cshtml file. So this is the basic code that is being shown over here. So there is a navbar and a footer. We'll talk about that later, but we'll dive deeper into this as well. But this is just to show you how the code is running and how it is working. As we have already ran our first ASP.NET Core web application, we'll now try to discuss how these routes and how these views and all working. So whenever we hit a URL, like here, this is the URL. So this URL is mapped to this view. This URL is mapped to this view that we're seeing. The same way we can create more routes which will be mapped to some other views. So how these views and the URL mapping works, let's have a look. First, let's say I'm requesting to the browser, to the server, and there is a thing called routing. So this routing engine basically maps my request with the controller. So I hit a URL, let's say localhost. So I'll just can copy paste this one. Okay. So this is my URL. So let's say I hit this URL, something like that. Now this is my request, the HTTP request that I'm sending to the server. So there is a routing engine who maps this URL with the controller. So here in this controller we have this home controller. So this home is mapped with this home. Okay. So what next the next what the controller does it is when routing engine maps with the controller, the right controller, the controller is then executed. So which is done by the controller factory. That means the controller is being executed. Okay, I'll just wrap it. So the controller is not being executed. So we have requested, routing engine maps the request with the controller, then the controller factory executes the controller. Now there is a action invoker. What action invoker? So action invoker what does is there is an action we have seen over here, right? So this was our controller home, and this is the action index. So if we go to our home controller, we can see a method called index. So this is our action. Now what action invoker does, it decides which action to call from the controller. So the controller is executed. Now the action invoker decides that this was the request. Now which action should I perform? So it decides the action. In other words, we can also say method in the controller. Next, the action is executed and a view is mapped with the action. So when the action is executed, there might be some logical codes inside the action or the method we're talking about. This action is mapped with a view. This action is finally mapped with a view. So whenever the action is executed, it will return a view. So it will return a view. So basically the user interface. So if we see this home controller, this was our index action. So you can see it returns a view. It returns a view. So this action index is mapped with a view. So where we can find the mapped view of the index. And if we come over here in the index, we have that home folder. So home folder is basically related with this home controller. If we go inside the home folder, we can see there are two CS HTML files. We'll discuss about the CS HTML file later, but just as of now, know that it is an HTML file which works together with C#. So this was the method index, and this index is mapped with this file. So anything we're seeing over, the items we're seeing over here in this page, all were written here. So you can see this is the text center, display welcome, and the links. Now we have some other actions over here. You can see privacy action. So if we hit a URL like home/privacy, so what it will do is, first the routing engine will find the controller, then the controller will be executed, from which then the action will be decided which action to perform, and then this action will return a view. So the view is already written here. You can see the privacy or say system. So the view is already written over here. So if I hit this URL, you can see the privacy policy. So this view is mapped with this controller. So this was a basic routing concept and how our controller and view is working together. I hope it would have been easy for you to understand. If you have any question or queries, you can comment below, and we'll talk about this more in the upcoming videos. Even if you don't understand all of them properly, we'll discuss about this more in the upcoming videos. Stay tuned. Thank you.